What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Stochastic DFS channel. And today we're talking preseason DFS for the NFL, the Saturday slate of week 1. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We also have a great deal for you guys right now. As you can see on the screen with the link in the video description below, you can get 50% off your first week of any DFS package. And what I really want to highlight here is our preseason package. This is what you're here watching the video for. We have projections, we have depth charts, we have premium Discord where you can get access to everything that is constantly updating through the day. It is currently Friday night. We're talking about the Saturday slate, and we just went through a complete whirlwind of late news. Luckily, all that is constantly updated on the back end for you guys. So if you'd like to check that out, link in the video description below. It is just $19.95 for a week. Incredible deal, in my opinion, something I work really hard on. And thank you if you've supported that. Let's get into the Saturday slate. Again, it's an early lock, so we're recording this on Friday night. More of a first look, so make sure you check out Live Before Lock tomorrow in the articles, everything along the way. But we'll start with quarterback. There's a couple situations I want to highlight that look like they're going to be pretty thin here. And the first one's Tennessee. We're not expecting to see much Tannehill. Last year, didn't play in the preseason at all. We'll see about him. What I think Tennessee's really going to do here is evaluate their second-year signal caller, Malik Willis, and their first-year signal caller, Will Levis. Between the two, Malik Willis is a dynamic runner. He's a player we're expecting to get somewhere between a quarter and a half of football. So he's somebody we want to look at immediately for this slate. A couple other options. Zach Wilson for the New York Jets. Unfortunately, the Jets lost Chris Streveler last week to an injury in the Hall of Fame game. Rodgers isn't going to play, which leaves just Wilson and Tim Boyle. Wilson's still a guy they're evaluating for the future, so we're also projecting somewhere between a quarter and a half for him. But he's not the only one. A couple other teams with a few signal callers. For the Chargers, only 2 because we're not going to see Justin Herbert. That means we're going to see a lot of Easton Stick and Max Duggan. Max Duggan's a rookie out of TCU, good rushing chops on him as well. A quarterback they're likely looking at potentially for the future of this team. Then we go to Buffalo, a team with 2 quarterbacks as well. We've got Matt Barkley and Allen on the other side. Not a strong preference between them. I would look to the rushing quarterbacks we previously talked about first if you're playing one lineup. But this is a condensed situation with just 2 signal callers, so something we should look at as well. The final one I'm going to highlight is a little more uncertain. It's Dallas. We don't know if Dak Prescott's going to play. Mike McCarthy would not tell us. But if he doesn't play, we could be looking at a situation with just 2 signal callers here. And a guy I think they might take a longer look at is Will Grier. He'll be competing with Cooper Rush, the longtime backup. But in that instance, we're probably going to see a half of football. That's a late news situation, so make sure you're at your computer or watching Live Before Lock to hopefully get that news. But Grier could be in play. For the running back position, this is going to be really hard to decipher without late news. We have a bunch of teams with 4 running backs projected to be active. Tennessee, Chicago, Indianapolis, Buffalo, Carolina, Dallas, Baltimore, both Los Angeles teams. This could be tricky. Philadelphia is a team where I think we might actually see closer to 3 because we know what we have at the top. You have Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift, and I think you're still going to see Gainwell and Boston Scott work ahead of guys like Trey Sermon and Kennedy Brooks. So Trey Sermon, he's a player that came out of Ohio State, flamed out with San Francisco, has allegedly been having a really good camp. So this is a situation I think we could potentially hone in on here with Philadelphia. In Indianapolis, I like both Evan Hull and Jake Funk. You got a lot of injuries in Indianapolis, and it's not just Jonathan Taylor. There's a lot of guys here that are banged up in this backfield. So Evan Hull, the rookie out of Northwestern, probably going to get a longer look here. And then, Jake Funk as well, just as the backups and players for depth because they don't really have a lot in Indianapolis right now. A couple other players I think might get looked at. You have some rookies that probably get a longer look. Roshan Johnson in Chicago, Tajay Spears in Tennessee, Deuce Vaughn in Dallas, Keaton Mitchell in Baltimore, Zach Evans in LA. All situations with 4 healthy running backs. I'd be looking to sprinkle all of them for GPPs. And then in situations like Carolina, we have backs like Raheem Blackshear. In LA, we have a battle between Isaiah Spiller and Joshua Kelly. those are also situations to potentially look at, along with Buffalo and Darrington Evans. We'll get a better sense of these guys and hopefully can break some ties with late news. But at the top, I'm primarily looking at Philadelphia with Sermon and Brooks, Indianapolis with Evan Hull and Jake Funk, and then mixing in backs from those other situations: Buffalo, Chicago, Carolina, Tennessee, Dallas, Baltimore, LA, and LA. At receiver, this is a little easier to evaluate here. We have a couple teams with 8 receivers active. Those are going to be on the lower end, the fewest of the group, if you will. New York Jets, Philadelphia Eagles, and Los Angeles Rams. From those teams, I'm looking mainly at Joseph Ngata from Philadelphia. This is a player that came out of Clemson, a UDFA, but has allegedly been pushing to make this roster. I think he's competing with players like Trey Cleveland and Britton Covey. Covey kind of occupies a different role as a returner. But you should see a lot of snaps here for Ngata, with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith not expected to play. For the Rams, Puka Nacua is a player I'm looking at. They're going to have a few more receivers here, mostly looking around 10, but you're not going to see Kupp. I don't think you see Van Jefferson. Puka Nacua is a guy out of BYU that's probably competing with other players like Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, Lance McCutcheon. Should get a pretty long look here. For the Chargers, we mentioned this, only 8 receivers here. You're not going to see Keenan Allen. You're not going to see Mike Williams. You're probably only going to see a little bit of Quentin Johnston. That means we're going to see a lot of players on the back end of this roster. Joshua Palmer's injured. John Hightower's injured. Darius Davis is a guy out of TCU that this team drafted, a burner, and they try to fill this field stretching role one way or another. We've seen it in multiple years. Most recently, we've seen Palmer and Guyton function in this field stretching 3 role, but Davis is a guy that could potentially do it as well. Finally, the Jets, another team that might only have 8 receivers. We went to Jason Brownlee in their first game. He played a few snaps, but it was actually Xavier Gibson who played more. I think those two are completely fine if you're looking for receivers. A couple other names to mention of players popping on depth charts that are a little more crowded: Shi Smith for Carolina, Jalen Brooks for Dallas, and Tylan Wallace for Baltimore. At the tight end position, this one we have a bit of a clear picture here. There's one room that has 3 tight ends. It's Baltimore, and it stands out pretty clearly on its own. We're not going to see a lot of Mark Andrews. I don't even think we see a lot of Isaiah Likely. That means we just have Charlie Kolar and Travis Vokolek on the roster. Kolar, former Iowa State tight end, he has a lot more receiving chops than the blocker Travis Vokolek, who came out of Nebraska. So we'll look primarily to Kolar as the number 1 tight end on the slate. For the Chargers, they're also thin at this position just because they sit most of their starters. They'll have 4 active. We saw this exact situation last year, and Hunter Kampmoyer played over 100 snaps for this team. He'll largely be competing with blocker Trey McKitty and former quarterback, converted tight end Stone Smart. Hunter Kampmoyer is going to play a lot of snaps. Not the most dynamic option here, but not a crowded situation whatsoever. Finally, we've got the Jets, and we saw this in the Hall of Fame game. They do not have a lot of healthy tight ends right now. Zach Kuntz, he played in the mid-20s in snaps, but he is 6'7", 251 pounds, 4.55, 40-yard dash. He didn't exactly light the Hall of Fame game on fire, but I think it could do a lot worse going back to this guy in a situation where we probably don't see Conklin or Uzoma. But that'll do it for the slate. This one was pretty quick, I know, so make sure to check out the other content live before lock tomorrow. It's going to come up fast. Especially on the 6-game slate, we'll have a lot of late news, so even more imperative to check that out as it rolls in. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back tomorrow and Sunday. Check everything out content-wise. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Matt_Gajewski. And until next time, good luck, everyone. We'll see you later.